The cargo container split open with a hiss that made David jump back 3 steps. He had been working in the loading bay for 6 hours already, and his shift was only half done. Sweat dripped down his face from the heat that poured off the volcanic surface of Theta 7 outside. This moon was a nightmare to work on, but the pay was good enough to keep him here. Something moved inside the container. David froze. The manifest said this shipment contained mining equipment from the northern continent. Nothing alive, nothing dangerous. But the movement came again, and this time he heard a sound like glass scraping against metal. A small head poked out from between 2 metal crates. David's blood went cold. He knew that shape. Everyone in 3 sectors knew that shape. The ridged skull, the gleaming black scales, the eyes that glowed like hot coals. An ashwing, the most dangerous predator in known space. Adult ashwings had wiped out entire colonies. Station defense guns existed specifically to shoot them down before they got close. But this one was tiny, maybe the size of a house cat, a hatchling. The creature scrambled out of the container and hit the floor with a thump. Its wings were still folded tight against its body. It looked around the bay with those burning eyes, and then it looked directly at David. David did not move. His hand wanted to reach for the emergency alarm. His feet wanted to run. But he had learned long ago that sudden movements around dangerous animals were a bad idea. He had grown up on a farm back on Earth before everything went wrong. His father had taught him to stay calm around scared creatures. The hatchling tilted its head, then it started walking toward him. "No," David whispered. "No, no, no, go back in the box." The creature did not go back in the box. It picked up speed, its claws clicking on the metal floor. When it reached David's boots, it did not bite. It did not breathe fire. Instead, it started climbing. David felt the tiny claws dig through his work suit and into his back. The hatchling climbed up his leg, up his side, and settled right between his shoulder blades. The weight was immediate and uncomfortable. The creature wrapped its tail around his waist and tucked its head against the back of his neck. "Get off," David said. He reached back to grab it, but his arms could not bend that way. The dragon was positioned perfectly where he could not reach. "Get off me." "Right now." The hatchling made a sound like a contented sigh and went still. The bay doors suddenly slammed shut. David spun around and saw his coworkers on the other side of the safety glass. Leo was at the control panel, his face white with fear. Through the intercom, his voice crackled with static. "David, don't move. We're calling security." "It's just a baby," David said. He could feel the dragon's chest moving against his back as it breathed. "It's not doing anything." "That thing killed 16 people on Colony 7 last year," Leo said. "An adult one, sure, but they all start small. We need to get you out of there and eliminate the threat." David's supervisor appeared at the window. Her name was Rachel, and she looked furious. "Chen, you need to get that thing off you right now. Station protocol is clear. All ashwings are to be destroyed on sight." "I can't reach it," David said. "And even if I could, I'm not going to hurt it. Look at it, it's just scared." "Scared things kill people," Rachel said. "I'm sending in a security team." "No," David said quickly. The dragon shifted on his back, and he felt those claws dig in a little deeper. Not attacking, just holding on tighter. "If you send people in here, it might panic. Right now it's calm. Let me just finish my shift." Rachel stared at him like he had lost his mind. "Finish your shift. You have a dragon on your back." "I have 6 more hours of work," David said. "I need this job. You know I need this job. My brother is sick back home, and I send him everything I make here. If I don't finish this shift, if I cause a problem, I lose the job. So I'm asking you to let me work. The dragon isn't hurting me. I'll be careful." The silence stretched out for a long time. David could see Leo and Rachel talking to each other, but he could not hear the words. Finally, Rachel turned back to the intercom. "You're insane," she said. "But fine, you have until end of shift. If that thing shows any sign of aggression, any sign at all, I'm flooding the bay with suppressant gas. You understand?" "I understand," David said. The others left the window, leaving him alone in the bay. David turned back to the rows of cargo containers that still needed to be moved and sorted. The work would not do itself. He walked over to the first container and grabbed the handle. The dragon on his back shifted its weight, but did not let go. David started pulling the container toward the sorting area. His back already ached from the extra weight. 6 more hours. He could do this. He had to do this. The hatchling made another quiet sound and settled more comfortably against his spine. David kept working. 2 hours passed in a blur of aching muscles and heavy breathing. David moved from container to container, sorting cargo by destination codes while the dragon clung to his back. The creature had grown heavier. That was the first thing he noticed. What had felt like 15 pounds now felt like 20, maybe 25. His shoulders burned with the strain. The hatchling woke up during the 3rd hour. David felt it stir against his back, shifting from one position to another. Then came a sound he had not expected, a chirp, high-pitched and curious like a bird asking a question. "Yeah, I'm still here," David muttered. He dragged another container into position and wiped sweat from his face. "Not like I have a choice." The dragon chirped again. This time it sounded almost like a response. David stopped and stood still for a moment. The bay was empty except for him and the rows of cargo. The cameras mounted in the corners tracked his every move. He knew Rachel and the others were watching from the control room. He could feel their eyes on him even through the walls. "You understand me?" David asked. He felt stupid talking to a dragon, but the creature shifted on his back and its tail tightened slightly around his waist. Not squeezing, just adjusting. "Okay," David said. "Okay, well, I have to move this container next. It's heavy, so hold on tight." He grabbed the next container and pulled. The dragon leaned with him as he shifted his weight. It was a small thing, barely noticeable, but the movement helped his balance. David blinked in surprise. "Did you just help me?" The dragon made a low rumbling sound. David took that as a yes. The intercom crackled to life. Leo's voice came through, sounding nervous. "David, man, you need to stop talking to that thing. You're making it worse." "Making what worse?" David asked. "The situation. Security is watching the feeds. They think you're losing it. You're talking to an apex predator like it's a pet." "It's not hurting me," David said. He moved to the next container and started the process again. The dragon shifted with him, its movements more coordinated now. "It's actually kind of helping." "That's what I mean," Leo said. "You're bonding with it, that's dangerous. Ashwings are killers, David, every single one of them." David wanted to argue, but he was too tired. His back screamed in protest every time he bent down. The dragon's weight pressed constantly on his spine. He should have been angry at the creature for making everything harder. Instead, he found himself grateful it was not making things worse. He opened his lunch container with one hand and pulled out a piece of dried meat. Station rations were never great, but they kept him going. He chewed slowly, trying to make it last. The dragon's head appeared over his shoulder, those glowing eyes fixed on the meat in his hand. "You hungry?" David asked. The hatchling chirped. David hesitated. Feeding wild animals was a terrible idea. His father had told him that 100 times, but this was not exactly a wild animal anymore. It had chosen him for some reason, and it looked hungry. He tore off a small piece of meat and held it up over his shoulder. The dragon took it gently from his fingers. No teeth scraping skin, no aggressive snapping. It ate the meat with delicate bites and then chirped again. "That's all you get," David said. "This has to last me 3 more hours." The dragon settled back between his shoulder blades without complaint. Across the station, in the control room, voices rose in argument. David could not hear them, but he could imagine. The security team wanted to eliminate the threat. Rachel wanted to protect her worker. The station director probably wanted to avoid an incident that would bring inspectors down on them. David did not care about any of that right now. He cared about finishing his shift. He cared about the paycheck that would help his brother afford treatment back on Earth. He cared about proving to everyone watching that he could handle this. The dragon began to purr. The vibration started in its chest and traveled through David's entire body. It was oddly soothing, like a massage chair. His tense muscles relaxed slightly despite the weight. "That's a neat trick," David said quietly. The purring continued as he worked through container after container. His movements became automatic. Scan the code, check the manifest, move the cargo to the right zone. The dragon moved with him now like it had always been there. When he leaned left, it leaned left. When he straightened up, it adjusted. An alarm suddenly blared. Through the station, David's heart jumped into his throat. The dragon's claws dug into his back, but not painfully, protectively. Rachel's voice came over the intercom, tight with tension. "All workers stay in current positions. We have an adult ashwing on proximity sensors. It's approaching from the southern ridge." David went very still. The mother, it had to be the mother looking for her baby. The hatchling on his back began to vibrate differently. Not purring, trembling. Small wisps of smoke leaked from its nostrils and drifted past David's face. The dragon was scared. "Hey," David said softly. "Hey, it's okay, I've got you." He did not know if that was true. An adult ashwing could tear through the station walls like paper. If it wanted its baby back, nothing would stop it. But the dragon on his back pressed closer against him, and David kept talking in a low, calm voice until the trembling stopped. The adult ashwing passed by the station without stopping. David did not know how long he stood frozen in place, waiting for the attack that never came. By the time the all-clear sounded, his legs were shaking from more than just exhaustion. The dragon on his back had calmed down as soon as the danger passed. It went back to that gentle purring, like nothing had happened. David envied its ability to let go of fear so quickly. "Station feeds are going crazy," Leo said through the intercom. "You should see what people are saying about you." "I don't want to know," David said. He forced himself to move again, grabbing another container. 4 more hours, just 4 more hours. "No, listen to this," Leo continued. "There's a whole debate happening on the crew channels. The Kreth workers think you've lost your survival instinct. They're saying humans are broken because we adopt dangerous things." David almost laughed. The Kreth were a reptilian species known for their cold logic. Of course, they would think this was insane. "What are the others saying?" David asked despite himself. "The Vin engineers are calling it a documented weakness. They say humans bond with anything that moves, even predators. But here's the interesting part." Leo paused. "Director Harris shut them all down. He said this is exactly why humans are valuable in the galaxy, because we see potential where others see threats." Director Harris was human too, one of the few in station command. David had only met him twice, but the man had a reputation for being fair, tough but fair. The dragon stretched its wings suddenly. David felt them press against his back, spreading across his shoulder blades. The wings were still small, leathery, and warm. They folded back down after a moment, and the dragon settled again. "You getting bigger?" David asked. "I swear you weigh more than you did 3 hours ago." The creature chirped in response. David opened the last of his food rations and shared another piece with the hatchling. This time the dragon ate from his hand without hesitation. Its tongue was rough and hot against his palm, but it was gentle, careful not to hurt him. Somewhere in the back of his mind, David knew this was dangerous. He was creating a bond with a creature that would grow into something that could kill him without effort. Ashwings were not pets. They were weapons with wings and fire. But right now, in this moment, the creature on his back felt like a scared child that needed protection. And David had never been good at walking away from things that needed help. He thought about his brother lying in a hospital bed back on Earth, sick with something the doctors said could be treated if they had enough money. David worked every extra shift he could get. He lived in the smallest quarters on the station. He sent every credit home. This job was everything. If he failed today, if the dragon turned violent, if security had to step in, he would lose it all. His brother would lose his chance. "We're going to make it through this," David told the dragon. "Both of us." Hours passed, container after container. The dragon grew more active as time went on, but never aggressive. It would shift positions every so often, trying to get comfortable. Its tail would unwrap and rewrap around David's waist. Once, when David stumbled over an uneven floor panel, the dragon extended one wing to help him catch his balance. That was when David truly understood. This creature was not just clinging to him for safety, it was trying to help him. The loading bay was freezing when David entered the cold storage section. His breath came out in clouds of white vapor. The temperature drop was brutal after the heat of the main bay, but the dragon's body heat spread across his back like a heating pad. The cold became bearable. "Thanks," David muttered. The dragon rumbled in what sounded like satisfaction. On one of the monitors mounted to the wall, a news feed played silently. David caught glimpses of it as he worked. Images of destroyed colonies flashed across the screen, ash-wing attacks, settlements abandoned, whole populations fleeing from the terror of these creatures. He looked at those images and then thought about the small, warm presence on his back, the gentle way it took food from his hand, the careful movements to avoid hurting him. What made this one different? Why was it not attacking like its kind always did? David did not have answers. He only had 3 more hours of work and a growing certainty that something important was happening here, something bigger than one man and one dragon. A steam vent burst open near his head without warning. David jerked to the side, but he was not fast enough. The scalding steam would have hit his face. The dragon's wings snapped out and blocked it. The creature took the full blast of heat meant for David. It made a sharp sound of pain, but did not let go of his back. David spun away from the vent, his heart hammering. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" The wing folded back slowly. The dragon shook itself once and then settled again. Its purring resumed, though David could hear a slight hitch in the rhythm. "You protected me," David said. His voice came out rough. "You actually protected me." The dragon tucked its head against his neck and went still. David stood in the cold storage area for a long moment, breathing hard. Then he went back to work with a new understanding burning in his chest. This creature had chosen him, not as prey, not as a threat, as something worth protecting. And David would protect it right back. David's body was failing. Every muscle screamed at him to stop. His back felt like someone had driven knives into his spine. The dragon had definitely grown heavier. What started as the weight of a cat now felt like carrying a large dog with claws that dug into his shoulders with every step. 2 hours left, just 2 more hours. He moved a container marked for the outer colonies and nearly dropped it. His hands were shaking. Sweat poured down his face despite the cold, recycled air. The dragon shifted on his back, and he had to lock his knees to avoid collapsing. "I don't know if I can do this," David whispered. The dragon made a low sound, almost questioning. Then it did something unexpected. Its tail unwrapped from David's waist and reached down to the container he was struggling with. The tail wrapped around one handle and pulled. The container moved easier. David blinked in shock. "Are you helping me lift?" The dragon chirped. Its tail stayed wrapped around the handle as David guided the container into place. When they set it down, the tail released and wrapped back around his waist. "That was incredible," David said. "Do that again." They moved 3 more containers together, the dragon's tail doing what David's exhausted arms could barely manage. It was not much help, not really. The creature was still small, but the tiny bit of assistance made the difference between possible and impossible. The station intercom crackled. This time it was not Rachel or Leo. Director Harris's voice came through, calm and measured. "David Chen, this is Director Harris. I've been watching your progress. How are you holding up?" David considered lying. "I'm tired, sir, but I'll finish the shift." "I believe you will," Harris said. "I'm contacting you because we've received communications from several parties regarding your situation. The Galactic Safety Council wants the Ashwing terminated immediately. They're threatening to file a station violation report if we don't comply. David's stomach dropped. Sir, please, it's not dangerous. It's been helping me. I know, Harris said. I've been watching the feeds. That's why I'm giving you a choice. You can hand over the creature now and I'll ensure you face no penalties. Your job is safe. Your record stays clean, or you can finish your shift and we'll deal with whatever comes after together. The dragon's claws tightened on David's shoulders, not painfully, just present, reminding him it was there. What happens to the dragon if I hand it over? David asked, though he already knew. The Safety Council protocols are clear. It would be euthanized. David closed his eyes. His brother's face appeared in his mind. The medical bills, the treatments, everything riding on this job. Then he thought about the small creature on his back that had protected him from the steam, that had tried to help him lift containers despite being so small. I'm finishing my shift, David said. Harris was quiet for a moment. I was hoping you'd say that. Good luck, son. The intercom went silent. David got back to work. His body moved on pure stubbornness now. The dragon seemed to sense his exhaustion and stayed as still as possible, every so. Often, its purring would intensify, and the vibration would help David's cramping muscles relax just enough to keep going. 90 minutes left. A container slipped from David's grip and crashed to the floor. The noise echoed through the bay like a gunshot. David dropped to his knees, gasping for breath. He could not do this. His body had reached its limit. The dragon climbed off his back. David felt the weight lift and almost cried in relief. But then he looked up and saw the hatchling standing in front of him. It was bigger than before, definitely bigger. Maybe the size of a medium dog now. Its scales gleamed black in the bay lights. Its eyes glowed like embers. You're growing fast, David said. The dragon lowered its head and pushed against David's chest. Gently, insistently, like it was trying to get him to stand up. I'm trying, David said. I just need a minute. The dragon pushed harder. Then it did something that made David's breath catch. It turned around and crouched low, spreading its wings slightly. You want me to get on your back? David asked. The creature chirped and looked back at him with those burning eyes. David wanted to laugh. The dragon was still too small to carry him. But the gesture, the intent behind it, hit him harder than any physical blow. This creature understood what he was trying to do. It wanted to help. Okay, David said. He used the dragon's offered support to pull himself to his feet. The hatchling immediately climbed back onto his shoulders, and David groaned as the weight settled again. But somehow it felt lighter, or maybe he just felt stronger. They finished the next 20 containers together. David's vision blurred with exhaustion. His feet dragged with every step. The dragon's tail helped with the heavy loads. Its body heat kept him from shivering when fatigue made him cold. 60 minutes left. David counted down every container, every minute. The dragon stayed quiet now, conserved its energy. They had become a team without words, just movement and trust. The final 30 minutes felt like hours. David's consciousness narrowed to simple tasks. Grab container, move container, place container, repeat. The dragon moved with him like they shared one body. When the shift timer finally hit 0, David stood in the middle of the empty loading bay with the last container in place. Every single item sorted and delivered. 12 hours of work completed. With a dragon on his back the entire time. He had done it. The bay doors opened. David expected Rachel, maybe Leo. Instead, 6 security officers walked in with weapons drawn. Behind them came a woman in a white coat carrying scanning equipment. Behind her stood Director Harris with his arms crossed. The dragon tensed on David's back. David felt heat building in its chest. Not good. Easy, David whispered. Stay calm. The security team spread out in a semicircle. Their weapons were not lethal, but stun rounds would hurt both him and the dragon. David raised his hands slowly. Shift's over, he said. I finished all the work. You can check the logs. We checked, Harris said. Every container accounted for and properly sorted. In fact, you finished faster than your average time despite the additional weight. He nodded to the woman in the white coat. This is Dr. Wells. She's our xenobiologist. Dr. Wells stepped forward cautiously. Her eyes were locked on the dragon. Remarkable, she said. A juvenile ashwing displaying cooperative behavior. I've never seen documentation of anything like this. What happens now? David asked. His voice came out steady despite his fear. That depends, Wells said. I need to run some tests, scan the creature, take samples, understand why it's bonding with you instead of showing typical aggressive patterns. And then what? David asked. You study it and kill it. Wells looked uncomfortable. The standard protocol for captured ashwings is termination. They're classified as a galactic threat. The dragon's heat increased. Small wisps of smoke drifted from its nostrils. The security team raised their weapons higher. Stand down, Harris ordered. The security team hesitated but lowered their weapons slightly. Harris looked at David. You've proven something today. That dragon should have attacked you a dozen times. Instead, it helped you. That changes things. How? David asked. The Galactic Safety Council wants it dead, Harris said bluntly. But I'm the director of this station and I have some authority here. I'm willing to grant you temporary guardianship of the creature, probationary period, but there are conditions. David's heart jumped. What conditions? The dragon stays with you at all times. You're responsible for its actions. Any sign of aggression, any attacks, and the deal is off. Dr. Wells will monitor its development. And you'll work with our behavioral team to understand what's happening here. Harris paused. This could go very wrong, David. If that creature hurts anyone, it's on you. It won't, David said. He did not know how he knew that, but he did. I'll make sure it won't. The dragon climbed down from his back for the second time. It landed on the floor between David and the security team. Then it did something that made everyone in the room go still. It lowered its head and folded its wings tight against its body. A submissive posture, showing it meant no threat. Incredible, Wells whispered. She looked at David with new respect. It's responding to your emotional state. You're calm, so it's calm. You trust these people, so it's showing submission. This is learned behavior from you. I didn't teach it anything, David said. You didn't have to. Ashwings are highly intelligent. It's been watching you for 12 hours, learning from you, imprinting. Wells pulled out her scanner and ran it over the dragon from a safe distance. The neural patterns are fascinating. This hatchling has bonded with you as a parental figure. What does that mean? David asked. It means you're stuck with each other, Wells said. Ashwing imprinting is permanent. This creature will follow you for life, protect you, learn from you, and if my theories are correct, it will model its behavior on yours. David looked down at the dragon. It looked back up at him with those glowing eyes, waiting, trusting. I can handle that, David said. Harris nodded. Then it's settled. You have 1 week to prove this can work. Dr. Wells will provide a temporary habitat module attached to your quarters. The dragon stays there when you're not working. When you are working, it stays with you. No exceptions. Thank you, sir, David said. Don't thank me yet, Harris said. The Galactic Council is going to fight this. They'll send inspectors. They'll demand compliance with safety protocols. You're about to become the most watched person on this station. I don't care, David said. I'm not letting them kill it. The security team escorted David and the dragon to his quarters. The walk through the station corridors drew stares from every species. Humans watched with curiosity. Kreth workers backed away with hisses of disapproval. Vin engineers took notes on their data pads. Word had already spread. The human who carried an ashwing through his entire shift. When they reached his quarters, David found the habitat module already installed. It was larger than his sleeping area, with temperature controls and a charging station for the dragon's developing fire glands. Wells had worked fast. The dragon explored the new space cautiously. It sniffed every corner, tested every surface with its claws. Then it returned to David and climbed onto his shoulders again. "You don't have to stay on my back anymore," David said. "You can rest." The dragon settled between his shoulder blades and began purring. David sat down carefully on his bunk. His body screamed in relief. 12 hours of carrying extra weight had pushed him past every limit, but somehow he had made it. "We did it," he told the dragon. "We actually did it." The dragon chirped softly and tucked its head against his neck. David reached up and carefully touched the dragon's scales for the first time. They were warm and smooth. The creature leaned into his touch like a cat seeking affection. 1 week to prove this could work. 1 week to show the galaxy that Ashwings did not have to be monsters. David had carried this dragon through one impossible shift. He could carry it through whatever came next. 3 months changed everything. The dragon David named Ridge had grown to the size of a large wolf. Its scales had darkened to pure obsidian, and its wings could now spread wide enough to create shadows across the loading bay. But despite its size and power, Ridge stayed gentle, careful, always aware of where David was and what he needed. The probationary week had turned into a month, then 2, now 3. The Galactic Safety Council had sent inspectors. They watched Ridge constantly, waiting for any sign of the violence that defined its species. They found none. David worked his shifts with Ridge by his side instead of on his back now. The dragon was too large to carry, but it did not need carrying anymore. It helped in other ways. Ridge could move containers that would take David 10 minutes in seconds. Its fire breath could weld damaged equipment. Its sharp eyes caught safety hazards before they became problems. The loading bay had never run more efficiently. Dr. Wells visited twice a week to run her tests and take her notes. She had published 3 papers already on Ashwing behavioral development. The scientific community was split. Half called her work groundbreaking. Half called it dangerous fantasy. David did not care about papers or debates. He cared that Ridge would curl up in the habitat module after each shift and make that rumbling purr sound until they both fell asleep. Other workers had stopped being afraid. Leo brought Ridge scraps from the cafeteria now. Rachel had caught the dragon helping David reach a high container and had not reported it as a safety violation. Even the Kreth workers had grudgingly admitted the creature showed remarkable control. But not everyone was convinced. The transmission came on the first day of the 4th month. Galactic Safety Council, official notice. Director Harris called David to his office with Ridge following close behind. "They're sending a compliance team," Harris said without preamble. "Full inspection. They want to determine if Ridge poses a future threat." "Ridge isn't a threat," David said. The dragon sat next to his chair, its tail wrapped loosely around David's ankle. "I know that, you know that, but the council sees an Ashwing that's going to keep growing. In another year, Ridge will be the size of a transport ship. That scares people." Harris leaned back in his chair. "They want proof that this bonding can be replicated, that other Ashwings can be raised the same way." David's mind raced. What kind of proof? "They're bringing hatchlings," Harris said. 3 of them, found on a settlement raid. If you can show the same results with new dragons, they'll consider reclassifying Ashwings from threat status to protected species. If you can't..." He did not finish the sentence. Ridge made a low sound and pressed against David's leg. David reached down and put his hand on the dragon's head. The scales were warm under his palm. "When do they arrive?" David asked. 2 days. The compliance team arrived with 3 hatchlings in containment units. Each one was terrified and hissing. David's heart broke looking at them. "We need proof that humans in general can achieve these results," the lead inspector said. His name was Rotheyes and he was Kreth. "Not just you." Harris had prepared 3 volunteers, all human, all willing to try. All 3 attempts failed. The dragons either attacked or cowered in fear. David watched from behind safety glass with Ridge at his side. The council would declare this a failure and terminate all 4 dragons. "Let me try," David said. "You've already bonded with one," Rotheyes said. That proves nothing. Please, David said, just let me try. Rotheyes considered, then nodded 5 minutes. David entered the containment area alone. The smallest hatchling was clawing at the wall, trying to escape. David sat down and waited without approaching or speaking. The hatchling eventually noticed him. It stopped and turned, those glowing eyes fixed on David with fear. David held out his hand, palm up. The hatchling moved closer, shaking with each step. When it reached David, it sniffed his hand, then climbed into his lap and curled into a ball. David touched its back gently. The hatchling leaned into his touch and began to purr. Outside the containment area, the room was silent. Dr. Wells was already taking notes. David communicates safety through his body language and tone. The hatchling sensed no threat. The others failed because they were nervous. Then we train people to approach these creatures with compassion instead of fear, Harris said. Create a sanctuary here. Raise hatchlings with humans who understand what David does. Rotheyes looked at David, then at Ridge, then at the small dragon in David's arms. 1 year, show me 20 bonded pairs, then we talk about reclassification. 6 months later, the Theta 7 station had become something new, the Ashwing Rehabilitation Center. 30 dragons lived there now, each bonded with a human partner. They worked side by side in every department. The station had never been safer or more efficient. David still worked the loading bay. Ridge still helped him move cargo, but now they trained others, taught them patience, showed them how to see past fear to the potential beneath. The galaxy was changing its mind about Ashwings, slowly, one bond at a time. And it had all started with one man who refused to put down a scared creature on his back, who carried it through an impossible shift and discovered that sometimes the fiercest things just need someone to show them kindness. Ridge curled up in the habitat module and purred. The sound echoed through David's quarters like a promise, like hope. Like home,